The other thing to think about is the scoreboard, right? Sometimes I do feel things are getting more and more complicated. Now, how do you simplify those things? And one of the things to do that, how to simplify things, is to just focus on things that really work for you. And so you start with the funnel of what actually the possibilities are, and then realize through testing what really works for you. And there are really two ways to think about it. One is activities that help build your brand, and then there are activities that help build demand, meaning leads, right? And those are kind of tied to each other, but depending on what you're looking to do, you have to think about these three kind of areas of metrics. The first one is attribution and ROI, right? What campaigns did you do? What activities did you do? What money did you spend? And did you get your ROI, right? Second is engagement. Engagement kind of helps you drive your ROI up or down, right? You might send 1,000 people to your website, but if your website is not engaging enough, it doesn't have the right content, it's hard to use, whatever it is, the 1,000 might have a conversion rate of 3%, that is 30, right? However, if you spend the same money and bring the same 1,000 people to your website, and the conversion rate is 8%, it's not even that much more, 5% more, that is 80. Now think about the cost per sale in that situation, right? So that's really what engagement is all about, and that drives your ROI to the left side, and then it also drives your ROI to the right side in terms of the visibility and popularity of your brand. So when you actually have a brand, long term it is cheaper, more cost effective for you to create engagement that is higher in ROI. Does that make sense? Because you have that brand and you bring that. And we won't have time to go into all that right now, but Google and Bing, they recognize that. They understand that. They listen to millions and millions and millions of pages to see how many times your name is being mentioned. And automatically they will make it cheaper for you to advertise. Automatically they will bring your pages up when you search on the Google box. That's the SEO, one of the X number of SEO things, right? So brand does help long-term cost effectiveness as well. And then in terms of the engagement metrics, these are the things we think about. The bounce rate, pages per session, average session duration, conversion rate. I'm not going to read through all that, but you kind of have this mechanism by which you are able to take this kind of emotional thing called brand and break it down into systematic ways of how you will achieve kind of your goals in building that up, right? So this is a survey of about 6,000 customers that my company did. It is from RV and boats, so it might or might not fully apply to the work truck area, but I think directionally it does. In fact, at the panel, we'd love to have some conversations and debate around that. So when we talked to these 6,000 customers who had submitted a lead, right? Some bought, some did not buy. Did the dealer contact you? Only 57% said they did. I cannot believe that. I mean, if I am a dealer, my job is to immediately respond to somebody who's shown interest. So these dealers must have, for the most part, contacted them. But they think that only 60% of the times that a dealer contacted them. The other kind of case study to the right, I know it's a little smaller, is one of my customers is one of the largest PTV, personal transportation vehicle, used to be called golf carts at some point. Nowadays they're called PTVs, manufacturers. And I was speaking with 400 of their dealers in Augusta last week. And they have this thing that if they send a lead from that OEM site, the dealer has to respond in some way, in some kind of way, in 3 hours. And if they don't respond in 3 hours, the OEM takes that lead using our technology and gives it to the next closest dealer in the network. And you can imagine what kind of a hue and a cry that created in these 400 dealers. Like, you're not even giving us a day. What is this, 3 hours? Can't you? So the smartest thing they did was they said, you know what, Amit, you built this friggin' technology, you come talk to the 400 dealers. So I went to talk to the 400 dealers, and I ran the math for all the leads that had come in from that site from the OEM site. And I said, guy, tell me, one of my analysts, of the leads that closed into a sale, what was the average time to respond by the dealer? And the leads that did not close into sale, give me the average. And I was expecting to see somewhat like, average close was 2 to 3 hours, did not close was maybe a day, they took a day to respond. But look at the results. The average for those that closed was 1 hour response. That doesn't mean that they've sold it in 1 hour. It's basically saying, I'm coming back to you, I got it, I'm working on it, here's what I have, let's start the dialogue, right? And then the average of that did not sell, those lead responses was 1.5 hours, just 30 minutes. What a difference it makes. That's the world we live in nowadays, right? And it ties directly not just to that transaction, it ties to what they think about you and how you will treat them, not just in the pre-sale, but also in the post-sale situation. So let's come back to this issue of only 57.5% of the respondents said the dealer contacted me. The issue is not that the dealer did not try to reach out. The issue is that in this day and age, with so much noise in anybody's head today, you have to have a consistent and intelligent follow-up process. It is not enough to do one call, leave a voice message, send a text or an email. You have to invest in facilities that get market customers, consumers to your to your website. You have to keep your digital assets up to date. You have to build a long-term strategy of nurturing your customers. So this is actually, I was just curious. I know what it is in the recreation space in terms of the, when somebody thinks about buying something, to how long it takes on average to buy. When it's a car, it's literally 10 days, 7 to 10 days, right? When it's a boat, it's a new boat, it's 7 months. When it's an RV, it's like 3 months. When it's a side-by-side, it's about 21 days. So in your business, what is it? I'm assuming it depends on the categories as well, but is it months? Is it days? Is it hours? Days, right? Days meaning 10 days, 15 days? 2 days. But that's when they submitted a lead and then they bought it, right? Or they're saying that they've... Right. But the person that is now think about the brand, not just inventory, right? If I'm starting to think about I need a new work truck, is that 2 days when I started to initially start thinking about it to when I actually ended up buying it, right? So it's probably, some guys need it then, something has happened, some guys probably take a longer time. My point here is that you have to nurture these guys. The first time they get into your database, you have to figure out how you're going to nurture them over a period of time, right? And then the other one is the omni-channel approach. Does anyone know here, on average, how many devices, personal electronic devices, computer type devices, people have now? Per person. It's 2.8, so you're pretty close, right? And this mobile, and then you got your laptop, now you're looking at your TV, whatever it is. So omni-channel is the only way to do it. And harks back to the content generation piece. You got to generate content once so you can distribute it through that, right? And then the lead follow-up process. Let's talk a little bit about the conversation should not stop after the purchase. So I'm going to share kind of two pieces of data with you. One is a study that was done by Gartner. Gartner is one of those research companies out there. And basically they said for some companies, 70% of their future revenues will come from 20% of their existing customers. In fact, if you do a good job with your customer satisfaction, and of course sometimes it can be quite challenging because of service, things like that, but if you do a good job with your existing customers, the probability of reselling to that same customer is about 60 to 70%. However, the probability of selling to new customers is about 5 to 20%. Now, I know some of Kathryn's customers here have high close rates with using her process or tech or whatever, but I've heard numbers like 60, 65%. That sounds pretty high to me. At least in retail for car dealerships, like 15 to 20% sounds like a very good number. I'm not exactly sure what the average would be for work truck solutions before you have that kind of lead to close. But from my perspective, even if it is 20%, 25%, it's so funny, it's in the blood of, it's in our blood. We somehow focus a lot on new customers and selling those customers the first time the product. If you focus also on your existing customers and owners, it is actually a more efficient way of selling, right? And then the other thing is that once that trust is built, they tend to buy more product from you, right? More add-ons, things like that. So the bottom line is the top line.